The ISM business cycle is hitting a signal that traditional investors and analysts tend to look at, which is the 50 threshold that people typically use to say the economy is expanding and the business cycle is expanding or it's contracting. However, a lot of people are saying this is a good signal and a buy signal for Bitcoin and crypto. And there are a lot of nuances in there. So I want to take today's session to cover what I'm seeing and what are the potential ways we could use this. This isn't the most important signal, but it's a important precondition that we need to monitor in order to avoid a black swan event, in order to avoid a recession. That's the main way to use the ISM in crypto analysis. So let's get it. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna put myself over here. So what is the ISM PMI business cycle indicator? Very simple. So this is a measurement of the economic activity in the manufacturing sector in the US. And it's a report that's released on a monthly basis. So the traditional way that the US investor tend to use this is when the ISM is above a reading of 50, that means the manufacturing industry is expanding. When it is below 50, it means it's contracting. Now, you can argue this might work or might not for economic sake, but for looking at the stock market and looking at crypto markets, it doesn't work that way. This is because the two things. Number one, the markets, the financial markets are forward looking. So if you have the ISM at just above 50, it doesn't all of a sudden just trigger a big buy into every single risk on asset. So because the financial markets are forward looking, they need to know, way more important to them is the ISM going to keep increasing or is it going to keep decreasing? Because the trend of it is able to drive the news headlines and it will instill either confidence in the market for investors or panic in the market for investors. And that's what drives prices. So this is why looking at the 50 indicator, such as, I think I had something here. Here. So there are certain news outlets that you'll catch, which says, hey, a PMI ISM index below 50 indicates the industry is in contraction, whereas above 50, it's just bull market. That's not true, okay? In reality, the way to use this, and you can even see this on the chart, the actual way to make this signal work is to look at the trends. If the ISM, which is this orange line chart here, if it's in an uptrend, then there's confidence in the market. And if it's in a downtrend, then there's dissatisfaction and there's the potential of FUD in the market. So that's why, you look at this ISM data here overlaid on top of Bitcoin. If you just take the 50 level right here, you see it's not that clear because the ISM has shown to be below 50 since 2022, but Bitcoin rallied, had a bull market during this time. And similarly, in the early stages of the crash in late 2021, the ISM was still above 50. However, just because the ISM already started to go in a downtrend, that was enough. Well, that's not the main factor to cause it, but it is a very worrying sign. So when you look at the ISM, the trends matter much more than the 50 threshold. Okay, so then let's use it on Bitcoin and altcoins. And I want to show you First, Bitcoin. So here we have the Bitcoin chart on the black and white candlestick, and we have the ISM up here. So since we know that the 50 mark is not important, then we remove that and we look at the trend on the ISM. Well, when you fit these two together, you see, relatively speaking, it's an okay indicator that predicts market tops and market bottoms. So when the ISM is near, historical highs like 64, this was a good time to be taking profit because the ISM doesn't go, it's an oscillator. So when it is very high, there's a good chance for it to trend down lower. And when it's very low, there's a good chance for it to trend higher. So that's one way to think about it. The other way to think about it is, since the 50 mark is not that important, as long as the ISM is in an uptrend shown by higher highs and higher lows, that's a good enough precondition to be bullish in the market. At least it's able to convey that we are not going to have a recession in the short term, because the ISM is an economic indicator. So the way I like to use ISM for the analyzing Bitcoin chart is this. As long as the ISM is in an uptrend, we can avoid a recession. But it doesn't tell us if Bitcoin price needs to go up or down. However, if the ISM starts to trend down, that's a worrying signal. So the only practical way to use the ISM is if it breaks an uptrend and it goes into a downtrend, you want to pay extra attention because that's an early signal of a recession. So go back in history and look at the past Bitcoin cycles compared to the ISM. Here is 2014. So notice how the ISM was trending up slowly, and then Bitcoin had its bull market down here. But then even though the ISM continued to trend up slowly, Bitcoin was already in a big correction. You can say this was clear bear market by that time, by October 2014. And then eventually the ISM went and broke its uptrend and went into the downtrend. And that caused Bitcoin to drop further. So this is the main signal that could fire that we need to watch out for. This is what happened in 2014. And then looking at 2018, the bear market. So again, ISM was slowly trending up. In 2017, Bitcoin had its bull market. And then Bitcoin topped in early 2018, and then the ISM topped as well during this period. And then the two started to go down together. However, when Bitcoin hit its 3K mark-ish, the ISM didn't bounce. The ISM kept going lower. And this was a worrying sign that you could say it predicted COVID in some sense, because at the bottom of the ISM was the COVID crash in March 2020. So the chart does tell this. And you can say that 2018 right here was the bear market bottom for Bitcoin, but you had this big crash that is COVID. So most people who got in early 2019, they had to eat another big loss down here before the full reversal into the new bull market. So again, in the bear market here, because the ISM didn't trend up and it continued to go lower, even though Bitcoin had a bounce in 2019, this faded. This did not make a new all-time high, and this wasn't the full bull market. It went back down to chop more. So that's the signal. That's the signal I want to give you guys, which is this. Right now, the ISM is slowly trending up. And Bitcoin is already correcting. Bitcoin is in the bear market for sure. The question now is, at some point, Bitcoin will bounce. Okay, whether that's soon or whether that's, by Q4, whatever. When it makes the bounce, we need to see the ISM at least hold above its higher high and higher low structure like this. Okay, where it had lows since 2023, 2024, 2025, and now January 2026, and it had higher highs, okay, a new high. It needs to at least hold this uptrending structure. If it breaks this structure, and let's say the ISM gets below 47, that's going to be very worrying, because in the last two bear markets, when Bitcoin started to bounce, but the ISM kept going lower, that's a worrying sign, because that's an early sign of a recession to come. So that's how I am currently monitoring the ISM. Just because it's getting above 50 doesn't mean Bitcoin needs to rally right away. Okay? It's a healthy signal that tells me that we could avoid the recession. And as long as we have the Bitcoin price make a bottom and makes a reversal and the ISM continue to trend up, that's all good. But if the ISM trends down and breaks below 47, that'll be very bad. And historically, 47 is also a very low reading for the ISM. When you look at right here, 47.8. The only times that the ISM was this low, let's say we look on a longer term chart at 47.8. You see, there are not that many times that the ISM was this low. And then I can also overlay the recessions since 1900. And you see each time that the ISM dips much lower than 50, below 47, there's a high chance of a recession. So that's why these two signals correlate together. We know that if we have a recession, the Bitcoin bounce, whatever we have over the next 9 months, is not going to matter enough to trigger a bull market. And because currently ISM is in an uptrend and the last higher low is at 47.7-ish, it needs to hold above that higher low that we made in January. If the ISM breaks below 47, that's, first of all, a break of the ISM uptrend, which typically tells us that the Bitcoin bear market still has a new low to come. And the bounce, you got to be very careful on the price bounce on Bitcoin. And on top of that, because below 47 is a very low reading for the ISM, highly likely to coincide with rising unemployment numbers, which is a precursor to a recession. So that's something you got to watch out for. On the other hand, on the bullish side, you cannot use the ISM to say, hey, it's above 50, I buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin is bullish. That's not enough. You also can't say, hey, as long as the ISM is trending up slowly, Bitcoin needs to go up. Because in 2014, the first cycle that we looked at here, there is the example of, in the first few months of the bear market in Bitcoin, while the ISM continues to trend up, Bitcoin is already trending down. So that's, even though ISM trends up, there is still the possibility for Bitcoin price to trend down. So that's the signal, using ISM for Bitcoin. You don't want to use it as a buy signal. You want to monitor the ISM and make sure that it's in an uptrend in order to say that, in order to take out the possibility of a recession. And if the ISM breaks below its uptrend and breaks below 47, then you got to be very careful when buying Bitcoin in the bear market. That's how I'm monitoring the ISM for Bitcoin. Now let's look at altcoins. So altcoins is actually more interesting using the ISM as an indicator, because the ISM not only drives market sentiment, but it's also a business indicator. And it affects small cap businesses much more than large caps. And in the same way, it affects altcoins much more than Bitcoin. So here is the total 3 market cap of altcoins divided by Bitcoin, aka altcoin season indicator. When this is going up in the candlestick chart, that's alt season. And when it's going down, that's reverse alt season. So this chart actually has very good correlation, very good hit rate when you use the ISM on top of it. Let's do a regular chart. No, let's do index. Okay, let's just do log. So you see that from 2016 until the 2018 altcoin cycle top, the ISM was trending up, and right around the same time, the two bottom together. And right around the same time, the two top together. And then in 2020, around the same time that the two bottom together, and in summer 2021, the two top together. And even in the 2013 to 2015 cycle, the cycle we just had, although Bitcoin was in a bull market, altcoins were not really in a alt season. Because, well, that's what this chart shows, but also the ISM did not have a strong rally from 2023 until 2025. We see this clearly on the chart, okay? The orange chart here did not have a strong rally from 2023 until 2025. It was very slow. So the point of takeaway here is that when analyzing altcoins, if the ISM can break into a major uptrend and not just stay so low around, under 60, between 50 and 60, and if it can get above 60, actually not 60, between 50 and 53, if it can get above 53, that would be the highest level that it has been since 2022. And that could lead to better conditions for altcoins. Again, that's only a precondition. At the same time, if Bitcoin price goes down and Bitcoin is not in an uptrend, obviously altcoins are not going to do well. They might hold up better than Bitcoin, but it doesn't mean they will go up a lot in price because we need Bitcoin to go up first. That's the other major caveat there. But the reason why this works is because the ISM is a business cycle indicator. And the business cycle matters much more, again, for small businesses versus large businesses. And I know this because it works the same way when looking at the Russell 2000 small cap companies compared to the S&P. So we looked at this yesterday as well. Here is the S&P, okay? First of all, the S&P is the 500 largest companies in the US. And the ISM doesn't matter much, okay? If you don't buy the S&P while the ISM is low, you lost money. Like you missed out on all these gains on the S&P. So simply put, the S&P doesn't care about the ISM as much. Even if the ISM is below 50, the S&P can easily rally to all-time highs. This is what is clearly on this chart right here. And this is what happened on Bitcoin as well since 2023. However, when you look at the Russell 2000 compared to the S&P, the Russell 2000 is the 2,000 smallest cap companies in the US in an index ETF, and you take that and divide it by the S&P. Effectively, you have how the US stock market, the small caps are doing compared to the blue chips. Very similar to how altcoins are doing compared to Bitcoin as a ratio. So you look at this chart and you have the ISM overlaid on top of it. It's very similar to the total 3 market cap compared to Bitcoin chart. Because, well, very simple. Most of the time, the Russell 2000 does not outperform against the S&P. Okay, it hasn't done so since 2011. Basically, these were like all-time highs of this ratio, and then it has just been long-term downtrend since. But there are peaks and troughs. For example, in 2018, when the ISM peaked and started to go in a major downtrend, the Russell 2000 saw a major bear market compared to the S&P. It underperformed. And then from COVID time, the Russell 2000 outperformed against the S&P as there's so much liquidity, the rising conditions of the business cycle really boosted investor morale, investor confidence to just ape small caps, just like altcoins. So this is why during this period, the Russell 2000 outperformed against the S&P. And then most telling is since 2021, since the top, right after the COVID crash, right after the COVID top in March 2021, the Russell 2000 index in the US, the small cap equities, has underperformed against the S&P. So even though the US stock market overall did really well, the small caps underperformed against the large caps. And this matches exactly with the business cycle, the ISM, since 2021. So the fact that this also functions the same way tells me that when we look at altcoins, the ISM plays a bigger role, and it's a more important picture for altcoins than for Bitcoin. In the upcoming cycle, when we look at Bitcoin, you don't need to treat the ISM with too much weight. The only thing you need to watch out for is basically this low here. If the ISM stays above 47, that's all good. It just needs to slowly do an uptrend or even hold sideways. You don't want it to break below the slow uptrend, because that could be an early signal of an upcoming recession. However, for altcoins in the upcoming cycle, let's say, by the end of this year, Bitcoin makes a bottom and then it starts to be in an uptrend. If the ISM doesn't do anything meaningful and it just keeps, slowly chopping in this like very low range and slow uptrend instead of something explosive like this, then that's another worrying sign for altcoins to say, hey, look, the last two alt seasons in 2021 and in 2017, we both had the ISM be in a big uptrend, whereas this time around, if we don't have it, then that's another missing condition to argue for an alt season. And you could say, hey, this was the main thing that we were missing in the 2023 to 2025 cycle, which is one way to explain why alt season didn't come as we expected. So to summarize, if you're just looking to hold Bitcoin, ISM crossing above 50 is not a buy signal. It is not. It simply doesn't matter as much. It doesn't matter for Bitcoin's bull or bear market, and it doesn't even matter for the S&P. So don't treat it as a buy signal. However, you need to watch the ISM to as a warning sign, early warning sign of a recession if the ISM drops below 47. Because the recession has a bigger impact than Bitcoin price being in an uptrend. So that's how I would use it for Bitcoin. For altcoins, we need a bigger explosive uptrend on the ISM, on the business cycle, in order for altcoins to outperform Bitcoin. And in order for the Russell 2000 to outperform the S&P, the small cap index. And we can even follow the Russell 2000 compared to the S&P in the following months to see really if this thesis is correct. Because let's say, the Russell 2000 is already starting to bounce a bit compared to the S&P. But if the ISM doesn't make a meaningful rise, and it just continues to chop, we shouldn't see the Russell 2000 outperform. So if the Russell 2000 all of a sudden starts to rally a lot while the ISM is still low, maybe something is wrong. But if the ISM is low and then the Russell 2000 should start to come back down. That's something of a prediction I want to watch out for in order to then take the same analysis and apply it to altcoins versus Bitcoin. I want to give a quick shout out to a sponsor of the channel and sponsor of this video, Grvt Exchange. So we have made a ton of videos on airdrops down here, ZK Sync airdrop and ZK Sync airdrop. This was 2023 to early 2024. So the ZK Sync airdrop, it was very mid because I don't know what happened really. ZK Sync launched too late, or just the ZK technology was not that popular. But one of the main projects that has been building on ZK Sync was Grvt Exchange. So this is a perp DEX that first started to build as a ZK Sync layer 2, but then later on they realized that ZK Sync is not the main ecosystem that they need to just attach themselves below, and instead they want to open it up to the broader retail audience. So I have kept talking with the team over the last 2 years, even after they just completely did nothing. So throughout this period, they made some big changes. First of all, the exchange used to be KYC. It used to be very hard to onboard, but today it's one of the easiest. Even though it's a perp DEX, you don't need your own wallet. You sign up with email password. There is no KYC, and you deposit just like a centralized exchange. And they have a mobile app that is even easier to use than centralized exchange apps. You just need to try it out. Compare it to your Bybits of the world. You'll see exactly what I mean, because centralized exchanges even have regional locks, whereas when you use a perp DEX mobile app, it's very easy. They have some of the widest accessible regions, and you can directly sign up using email. So this is number one. Number two, they are one of the leading perp DEXs today. They're just behind Lighter at the number 5 spot in terms of volume and open interest. And they haven't done their airdrop yet. So they could have just walked away after the ZK airdrop, but they kept building. They wanted to build something real of a platform. And today they are the only thing that matters on ZK Sync, using the ZK Sync technology. So just yesterday, they announced a partnership with Aave. So now all of the deposit you make on the exchange that you used to trade with can be earning 11% using Aave. All of the stablecoins are natively yielding. And if you have signed up to Grvt, whether you were part of the ZK Sync airdrop phase or you were a ZK Sync user, you most likely have done this task. I know there are a few thousand people that came in through my videos and our Telegram. I have plugged Grvt as one of the main ways to get the ZK Sync airdrop for multiple months on Telegram and on our Discord as well. Wow, we have 22,000 results of different people sharing the Grvt link. That's pretty crazy. So there are definitely a lot of you that have signed up to this platform. So the reason why I want to bring this up is if you are one of these people and you remember you signed up, you still have airdrop waiting for you. And they are going to do this airdrop soon. So all you need to do is log in to Grvt with whatever account you signed up with, email or wallet, whatever, make some trades. You don't need to deposit a lot. Try it out, download the mobile app, and then you get the airdrop. Very simple. And this will be a decently sized airdrop because it is the 5th largest perp DEX, just behind Lighter today. As long as the ISM holds above 47.7, this low right here, all things are good. We're not going to have a recession. And Bitcoin can feel free to bottom however it wants. way too many people are looking at this and saying, hey, since the ISM did not predict the Bitcoin top, okay, it's going to do the exact opposite. Okay, since the ISM goes up, Bitcoin is going to crash. That's not what it is. Like, one indicator, when it fails to predict one time, doesn't mean it does the opposite. Okay, you don't want to be in that camp. You want to stop using that indicator in that way, but the fundamentals of the ISM is still the same. It's a real market data on how the economy is doing. When the economy is doing well, you don't want to say markets should crash. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why you really want to understand this signal. As long as the ISM can trend up slowly, or if it trends up quickly, both of those scenarios are good, whether it does this or it does this. We just don't want it to break below and make a lower low. This is the main worrying sign that we need to watch out for. If this happens, Bitcoin could head much lower. But if this doesn't happen, nothing else should be worrying us and, pointing to signs of a recession, because that's not what the ISM real data is telling us. Okay, so that's what I wanted to get out there and how I am using the ISM for both Bitcoin and altcoins. That's all the time I have for today. So thank you guys for joining the live stream and interaction and all the questions. Make sure to follow me on X, as I always say, on VirtualBacon. This is where I drop day-to-day alpha before I make them into these in-depth videos and live streams. And also share this video with a friend if you need to, convince your friend to buy more Bitcoin while it's cheap. I'm gonna be trying to act as that voice to find 100 different ways to convince people to buy Bitcoin while it's cheap in this bear market. That's one of my goals here. So if that sounds good to you, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and join our future live streams. I try to go live Monday to Friday from now on. Fingers crossed I can do it. And hopefully I can do this consistently for the next 9 months so we can all survive this choppy period together. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you on the next video and the next live stream. Bye-bye.